morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to continue a series I started a little while ago. We're going to be looking at Pokemon cards that are so good, they will never be reprinted. Two caveats before we get going. We're not talking about banned cards. Banned cards, firstly, they're a bit easy. Secondly, they always get their own videos. Obviously, Forest of Giant Plants isn't going to come around again, and Lysander's Trump card isn't going to come around again. It's kind of like low-hanging fruit. We're not going to be chatting about those. And when I say never come around again, what I mean is, looking at the decisions of the people making the cards and where we're going, we are moving away from cards like this, and a clear intention is being shown that we're not getting these cards. Is it possible that in the future the design philosophy changes and these cards do get reprinted? Obviously. But I'm putting my flag in the ground and saying that Pokemon are going, no, we're not having these again. Now, as a quick reminder, I will link the first 3 videos in the description. But in video number 1, we saw Pokemon Collector, Uxie, and Broken Time Space. In the second video, we saw Cleffa, Hypnotoxic Laser, and Energy Removal, obviously counting Super Energy Removal as well. And in the third video, we looked at Power Spray, Claydol, and Junkarn. So if you're thinking, why did none of those 9 cards make the cut in this video? The reason is extremely simple. It's because we've already talked about them. So I want to start off with a card that's just occurred to me this week. Team Flare Grunt. Now, Team Flare Grunt is an odd one, because Team Flare Grunt doesn't look like a gigantic powerhouse card. Team Flare Grunt comes in as a supporter card. Discard an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. It's fine. But it's not some gigantic powerhouse. I mean, if you look at this compared to a card like Uxie, for instance, you look at it and go, well, Uxie was an absolute meta-defining card. It was a staple in basically every deck. And this was quite good. Like, there is no real comparison in terms of how good they were. But if we look at what's been printed since X and Y, if we have a look at the energy removal, we can see that Pokemon are moving far away from this guaranteed energy removal stuff. Now, obviously, we've had Crushing Hammer, and Crushing Hammer is basically this on a coin flip, but it is any energy. As a side note, it is still legal in the standard format because of the secret rare print in Ultra Prism. But then we've had stuff like Faber. Now, good news, Faber does Lost Zone, but Faber only Lost Zones a special energy. And it's kind of like Xerosic in that nature. And Xerosic came around at about the same time as Team Flare Grunt. Except that's basically been reprinted, and Team Flare Grunt hasn't. As a side note, Xerosic is arguably better because it lost zones and can get rid of a stadium, although it can no longer get rid of your own tool, which can be fairly important. And then just recently I told you about Team Yell Grunt. And Team Yell Grunt is basically Team Flare Grunt, but it puts the energy back into your hand. That is to say that you can then just reattach it next turn. And of course, we've got Welder at the moment, so you return the energy, your opponent welders it back on. It is significantly weaker. So if we're getting stuff like Faber and Team Yell Grunt, that really does seem to say to me that Team Flare Grunt just isn't coming back. And the thing is, when we've got stuff like Pelpad and the Oranguru from Ultra Prism and Lusamine, and more recently just come out, Cynthia and Caitlyn, we're in a format at the moment where you can recover and reuse supporters over and over again, even bearing in mind that we don't have Versus Seeker. And that means that you can continually reuse a card which guarantees to get rid of your opponent's energy. Then, of course, we've got Lieutenant Surge's strategy, such that you can play 2 supporters in one turn, and we've got a format where this kind of stuff can be abused and is very, very good, and I just don't think we're getting it back, at least not in the near future, or the medium-term future, or the medium to long-term future. We seem to be moving away from cards like this, from the hardcore energy denial. And if you look at the cards that have been printed since Team Flare Grunt, It's not even close. Now, some people might ask, as they did in the previous video, where we talked about Hypnotoxic Laser, hang on a second. How can you say a card's never going to be reprinted if it's still legal in the expanded format? Excellent question, valid point, and my response would be very simply, just because it's legal in expanded doesn't mean it's ever going to be legal in standard again. They are very different formats that receive a very different level of care, and expanded is there for silly combos with the occasional ban. Plus, if you look at the kind of cards that have been banned in expanded, like Lieutenant Surge, they are actually hurting how good Team Flare Grunt could be. I also don't think we are ever going to have again the Sableye from Stormfront. Now, I previously made a video about the Sableye from Stormfront and how it completely broke the game. Now, Sableye actually did a couple of things very, very well indeed. The ability, or Pokebody as it was back then, said that if Sableye is your active Pokemon at the beginning of the game, you go first. But it also had, for 0 energy Impersonate, search your deck for a supporter card and discard it, shuffle your deck afterwards and use the effect of that card as the effect of this card. And it also had Overconfident. If the defending Pokemon has fewer remaining HP than Sableye, you do 40 damage. And of course we had Special Darkness Energy at the time, which let you do an extra 10 damage. So if your opponent had 50 HP, you would be able to do 50 with a Special Dark and get a KO. Now, the thing is, I'm cheating a little bit here with Sableye, because what exactly are we not getting again? Is it the ability, which is just broken, letting you go first? Is it the free attack that lets you use any supporter in your deck? Is it the attack that gets an easy KO on whatever you want, as long as you can bring it down low enough? And the answer is, it's a combination of all of them. If you look at some of the bans we've seen lately, it's stuff like Jesse and James. Now, Jesse and James is Hand Disruption, and it's good, so it's been banned and expanded. And then we've got stuff like Lieutenant Surge, which could potentially play 2 of them, so it's banned and expanded. The problem with Sableye is, it lets you go first every time. So any degenerate supporter combo we've got can be done straight away. And with Impersonate, you can actually then use another supporter. We've got Overconfident, which can get an easy KO before your opponent's even drawn a card. The reason it got banned was because we changed the rules. Back in the Diamond and Pearl era, when this came around, you were not allowed to play trainer cards going first, though you could attack. As we moved into the Black and White era, we changed the rules so you could attack going first, as well as using trainer cards, and essentially what would happen is Sableye just legit broke the game. People would play a deck with lots of little cheeky damage cards and Sableye, and just wreck your opponent's board. They'd play Seeker to make your opponent pick up one of their bench Pokemon, take out a couple others, damage the active, and then use Overconfident to win, having drawn through their entire deck before their opponent's even drawn a card. Going first is a huge advantage. Playing 4 Sableye in your deck gave you a just under 50% chance of going first, and especially being able to use degenerate supporter combos and then adding another supporter, or getting little dogs like this. Yeah. That is pretty gosh darn good. Now, one thing worth remembering here, we can no longer attack going first, and we can no longer use supporter cards going first. Well, no, that's not strictly true. Japan is getting that banned soon. We're gonna get that rule, right? We're gonna have no supporters going first. I am 100% confident about this. And that does significantly degrade the impact of this card. But make no mistake about it, we are not letting something like this happen again. Sableye never got banned, but it did literally lead to an early rotation. What happened was that in the UK, we weren't allowed to use black and white cards or black and white rules in our nationals. Over in the US, you guys rotated to Heart Gold, Soul Silver on before your national championships to prevent these kind of degenerate strategies. Sableye was good in decks like Gyarados, but it wasn't completely broken. until it was completely broken, then never doing that again. And it really was all three parts of the card that all combined for quite the level of brokenness we're talking about. But certainly letting you go first and having an attack that can donk, that was very much a mistake. Not initially, but it became a mistake, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we rotate in trading card games. And the third card I want to talk about today is one with which you're probably all fairly familiar, Pokemon Catcher. But when I say Pokemon Catcher, I mean Pre-errata Pokemon Catcher. I mean the Pokemon Catcher which was just an item card that when you played it, you switched your opponent's active Pokemon with one of their bench. Now, on the one hand, this kind of seems like low-hanging fruit. This seems like a very easy prediction to make. And on the other hand, I could see myself being wrong about this, purely because this was in and of itself a reprint of Gust of Wind. Now, to put this into context, the Pokemon base set was released, when I say released, I'm talking about over here in English, on January the 9th, 1999. Emerging Powers was released in English quite a long time later, on August the 3rd, 2011. It took 12 years to reprint it. But it did reprint Gust of Wind from the base set. Even having said that, I just don't think we're ever going to get it back. And the reason is a couple of things. Firstly, it's too good. It is not a skill-intensive card. Now to be fair, we had Junk Arm at the time as well, which helped or hindered depending how you look at it. But when you played in that format, it was very simple. You had the gusting. You never thought, oh, does my opponent have a gusting card? You never thought, oh, are they going to be able to pull a Pokemon off the bench? No, they definitely will. They definitely will be able to gust. It was a given. It was definitely happening. And that takes a lot of skill out of the game. Now, it turns it into a very different game, but it really hurts a lot of different decks. But my main reasoning behind this is very simple. Look at what's happened since. The first thing they did was they reprinted it with a coin flip, turning it into Pokemon Reversal, which ironically was what we were all playing before this was reprinted. But then we've got stuff like the Ninetales from Team Up, which does give you automatic gusting, but it takes up a bench space, you've got to evolve into it, and you've got to discard 2 fire energy from your hand to do so. That's not the same. We've had Guzma and Lysander, but both of those are supporter cards, and you're only supporter cards for the turn. So that makes them significantly more awkward. You're also not drawing cards. We've had Custom Catcher, which is automatic gusting of any description, just so long as you play both of the cards at the same time. And just recently we've been graced with Great Catcher, but firstly you've got to discard 2 cards from your hand, and even then, all it does is gust an EX or a GX, not a regular non-EX, non-GX single prize Pokemon. And for that reason, it really doesn't look like we're ever getting this one back. And yes, I know, I am fully aware that we had this, and then it went away, and then, 12 years after it was initially printed, we got it back. I understand all of this, but I still don't think we're ever getting it again. I think it's one of those cards which is too good, and essentially was a mistake to be reprinted. It went away, and I just don't think it's ever going to come back. We always have some kind of gusting effect, but guaranteed gusting of any description on an item card, it's too good, ladies and gentlemen. It's just too good. So there we go. Those are 3 cards that I don't think we're ever going to see again. And I've got a nice little list of cards for future videos. But I'd like to know what you think. Tell me your cards that you think are so good we will never see them again. Cards that Pokemon seem to be saying, look, we know that card was too good. You're not having it back. Have a significantly weaker version. Give me your ideas. I like doing this as a series, doing a new one every few months. I think I'm going to keep it going. Go nuts in the comment section, but please do remember the rules. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WasiPlays, where we talk about a whole heap of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would you? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.